Learnt. I'm Sherry. This is Finish It Friday, where we see what I've finished this week and what you have finished this week. Well, I have not gotten much finished this week because I'm making the video early. So I am in the early stages of getting my week even started at this point. And I'm sure you're thinking, did I just not see you in this shirt on Wednesday? Yes, you did. Because I made those two videos on the same day. This video and that video. So I've been busy. I've been doing some things. I had to make the video for Wednesday, which meant that I needed to finish binding the Happy Days quilt. I started hand binding that several months ago. Probably not too long after I had long-armed it and gotten it pretty much to the finished stage, other than the binding. So I went ahead and finished all that up so that I can make that Wednesday video on the hanging sleeve. So if you need to know how to put a hanging sleeve on your quilt, how to make one and such, then go back and watch the Wednesday video if you haven't seen it yet. So I did that, and then I also worked on the Sew Yeah Challenge quilt and got some things put together. I've got like 10 or 11 four patches over there I put together. That's what I've done so far this week. But right at this moment, it is Tuesday. So I've not had a lot of time to do anything just yet. So that just means that we're just going to go right into your finishes. And we have a bunch. I'm just doing 10. So if you sent one recently, like this week in the last couple of days, it probably won't be on today. It'll probably be next week. So I probably already have enough for next week. So some of these are ones that are missed from last week because, 10, and I stopped. So I just saved the ones after 10 for the next show. So we're going to do 10. And there's lots of neat finishes in this episode as well. So hang on here and we'll take a look at what you've done this week. Okay, the first one we're going to show today is from Karen. And Karen has a bright, colorful quilt here hanging on the clothesline. Just love a quilt on the clothesline, don't you? She says, I finished this quilt a while ago. It was a charity quilt for Project Linus. The pattern is called Asa Gale by Running Doe Quilts, also sold through Villa Rosa. I had some lessons learnt making this. And just briefly, I'll tell you, she said the first lesson was don't listen to YouTube videos while cutting fabric. So she had a little bit of a miscut there and had to Franken-piece the corner. But then that led to another lesson learnt number 2. Pay attention to which corner you Franken-piece. So she worked all of that out. She says she's finishing up some non-sewing projects and hope to get back to quilts soon. And she's been making pillowcases for her guild, and they are donated to Child Protective Services. So you've been busy with your sewing, just not exactly quilting. It's all good. She says, thank you for your channel. You feel like a friend that I could really enjoy hanging out with and do some sewing together. Aw, thank you for saying that. I'm sure we would be great pals in a sewing room together, Karen. Next, we have a few things from Colleen. And the first two quilts here, I'll put both on the screen. They're very similar in pattern, if not exactly the same. Yeah, I think they're pretty much the same other than the fabric. This one says, these quilts were made for my son and brother. She said the middle squares on the first quilt it says the middle squares on the first quilt are an old Hot Wheels sheet my son had when he was a kid. So she made a quilt out of that. So that's lots of neat memories for your son. And then she says my brother is a sports nut, so his is Red Sox and Patriots fabric. The wall that's the wall hanging. So she made a sports themed one for her brother out of the same pattern, and they just look fantastic. Great idea using a Hot Wheels themed sheet, or any sort of like licensed fabric sheet from the past could be recycled into a quilt like this. I think that's a great idea. Now the third one she has is a wall hanging for her, she says. The quilt pattern is Favorite Things by Missouri Star Quilting Company. So looks like you did some embroidery and made a nice little wall hanging there. I love the hanger it's on too. That just made a nice little set for your wall. Love red work. That is red work. She said, I loved your idea for using vintage linens, and she has a bed under the bed tote full of them, and will be making mug rugs soon. Well, let me tell you, just a little bit later, Colleen sent her finished mug rug using one of her vintage linens. Look at this. Isn't this great? She says, the first of many, I'm sure. So much fun. Thanks again for the idea. That's adorable. That turned out really good, Colleen. All of your finishes are wonderful. The next one is from Sharon. Sharon says she made this quilt for her husband, but he unfortunately passed away before it was done. Oh, I'm so sorry, Sharon. I'm sure he saw you working on it and knew the quilt was for him, and probably enjoyed that process. I was looking closely at your quilt. Of course, a blue and white quilt. I mean, come on. A blue and white quilt is always lovely. Just lovely. Looks like you maybe put that dark blue minky on the back. I could be wrong, but so pretty. And this is, I was going to say, this is this quilt teaches us something. All of those blocks are the same pattern, but depending on how you place your lights, mediums, and darks, you get a whole different effect. Looks great together because all of the fabric is of the same line or color family, but each star, each block looks very distinct from the next. This is wonderful. Lisa, she says, I just finished this today. That was last Wednesday. It's a graduation gift for my great nephew whose favorite color is red. It is called Woven, and Carol Thalen has a YouTube tutorial with a link to her free pattern. Her instructions were very well written, and the chart and diagram made it easy to stay organized. There are 768 half square triangles, all squared to 3.5 inches. That is a bunch. It finished at 76 by 98. My nephew's very tall, so he will appreciate the length and can't wait to give it to him. He's really going to appreciate this. This is awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of trimming. Those 768 half square triangles. My goodness. A lot of work there. He's going to love it. The next one is from Jenny. She said she recently quilted this one. This is Skyline. She said, I made it with Pat Sloan's Quilt Along from Tula's 100 Modern Quilt Blocks book. The book has lots of fun 6.5-inch unfinished blocks that are easy to make. Once I got started making blocks, I couldn't stop. I chose 2 layer cakes from my stash, and since I spread all those pieces all over my table, I would cut 8 to 10 different blocks out at a time. I stopped at 61 blocks. Printed fabrics are Hummingbird Heaven by Studio E. Solids are Royal Nights by Wilmington, and background is Kona Medium Gray. I didn't think about an overall color placement when cutting out blocks. I just used fabrics that I liked together. And when I started putting blocks into Tula's Skyline setting, I saw how busy they were. I finally decided to go with darker on bottom and lighter on top, like a crowded big city might be. Yes, you created a really nice effect there. She says it finished at 66 by 74, and the pantograph, or the edge to edge she put on there, is called Ocean Waves by My Creative Stitches because it made me think of wind blowing across the buildings. I love the edge to edge quilt design you used. It couldn't have been more perfect for this. And good for you, putting those darker ones to the bottom and going up lighter. It just created such a pleasing effect, and it was exactly the effect that you were wanting. That it was gave that crowded city and then up into the skyline. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that's not too awfully hard. Like you said, the blocks are easy, and then the setting, the modern design of the setting was very simple. That's the thing about modern quilts. They're easy. They're usually fairly easy to put together. The next one is from Donna. This is her Dandy Stars quilt, made up in some really cute pastel shades, and then she's got a dark contrast there with the star points and then the other blocks that are set on point there. Very nice effect. And then she has another one called Goose Tracks. Now, this is pretty impressive. She says, let's see. She says, you can see how the seams between the blocks are covered with bias strips. Okay, as you're looking at the back. So it's just as interesting on the back as it is on the front because of all the stuff going on the front, all that applique and all the stitching, intricate stitching you did. You're so talented. This is really neat. And do you see the goose tracks? I do. That's a work of art. Good job, Donna. The other one is from Deb, and she's got two finishes here. One is the Riley Blake Designs Block Challenge that we just got finished through 2025. She had fun making that. Looks very nice. I like your colors. And then the other one is from a couple of charm packs I had, and she says she calls it Fancy Pastels. Very pretty. Very, very pretty. Great finishes, Deb. Sharon has a finish. We have the front and the back here. She says the material was bought from a half-pack quilts, which comes with a pattern, the Sassy Sunflower. Apparently a southern thing. I vacationed in Mississippi at my daughter's graduation. I made this for her, graduating with a master's degree in social services. Well, she definitely deserves a quilt, does she not? After all that work. Who picked out the material? She picked out the material in Goshen, Mississippi at the Block Therapy Quilt Store. The pattern is called Spin Me Round. It's approximately 50 inches square, and the quilting is done on a gammal, and it's called Faster Posies. She says, I'm a competent beginner and have lots to learn. Thank you for your YouTube channel. Love it. Thank you, Sharon. Love having you. I love your pinwheel quilt. All the work that you did on it looks great. Love the pinks and the teals together. Actually, it's more of a violet. And then you've got some dark purples in there, too. So that all went together very nice. I hope she enjoys her graduation gift. Okay, Linda has one. She says, I'm a fairly new subscriber to your YouTube, and today as she watched the quilt show, she was inspired to send in a finish. And she said this is a sister to the one I showed on that episode, which I think was June 27th, maybe? She says this one uses scraps of Sherry and Chelsea lines, including Strawberry Lemonade, Raspberry Summer, Laguna Sunrise, and Seashore Drive. It was a block of the week sew along with Nancy McNally called Patch and Dash. I was happy with this one because I was able to keep inspired and up to date each week with a new block that came out. Nancy had shown a picture of her layout, which encouraged me too. Each week I looked closely at her layout and copied her most of the time. Yeah, that's a surefire way to get it right. She says, I hung this quilt in my sewing room wall that adjoins a wall where the Dahlia quilt hangs, and this month my sewing room actually looks coordinated. Well, one corner looks good anyway, she says. She says, keep up the great videos and keep up showing us that pretty smile. Aw, thank you. Linda's from Alaska. And I love your other quilt. I remember the other one. So you got one in one corner and one in the other. I think this is great addition to your sewing space there, Linda. Deborah has two. She's our final one for today. She says, hi, Sherry. Hope you and Mark are well. We are doing fine. This quilt is called Fair Isle Flakes from APQ February 2025. It is on the front cover of the magazine. I just had to do this project. I couldn't find the deep teal green, so I used a soft green. Only the top is finished. We'll finish at a later date. Hope you like it. Yes, I like it. I remember this from one of those magazine covers. And the lighter green is fine. I think it coordinates really well with your deep pink and the pops of yellow and then the lighter teal there. Great job. And then her other one is a Scrappy Celebrations. She says she finally finished this beautiful quilt when she received her magazine in the mail, the APQ magazine. She said, I just had to do this quilt. To my pleasant surprise, this was one of your QALs. Yes. So enjoyed this project. Only the top is done. We'll finish at a later date. Yes, I loved the Scrappy Celebrations. We had a lot of participants with that quilt along, and I love your version of it too. Okay, there we go. Another Finish It Friday in the books. Another great quilt show. Good for you all who have been working hard in your sewing rooms working down on those projects, whether it be something from the past that you started or something you started recently that you've been able to keep up with and keep going, keep that work in progress. And sometimes when they're UFOs, you know, they sit there for a little bit, but eventually they get done, don't they? So never fear the UFO. They do come to be a work in progress again, eventually. All right, thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for tuning in this week. And remember, I won't be here Monday for Monday Quilt Chat, but I will see you next Wednesday for another interesting video. What will it be? Well, your guess is as good as mine right now, but I'll have something for you. All right, have a great week. Rest of your week. Weekend is what you're going to have, right? I'm still working on my week. All right, have a good one. We will see you back here next week. All right, bye-bye.